Hello! In this episode, we take a look at Thoughtbot's front-end framework, Bourbon, which is a lightweight mixin library for Sass, Neat, a semantic grid framework, Bitters, scaffolding and structure, and Refills, components and patterns. So what we're going to do in this episode is try and get this up and running on our Rails 5 application. We'll start off with Bourbon, a simple and lightweight mixin library for Sass. Now, suppose you have an element like a header and you want the background to display a gradient. So instead of adding various background image depending on the browser you're targeting, we can use Bourbon as a shortcut. So for instance, here, all we have to do is include background image, write linear gradient, and pass in an argument, direction, and the color. So let's get this up and running on a Rails app. First step, let's create a new Rails app. Rails new barkeep. Now I'm just going to create a new controller pages, which will contain in the next section. So Rails generate controller there. Next step, let's run the Rails app. Start the server. I'll just change the routes. Just update the page. Let's make sure it's up and running. Localhost 3000. There we go. Okay, so all we have to do is add the gem Bourbon, run bundle install, and add it to our application.css file here. Now we have to make sure that we rename .css to .scss. So let's add to the gem. Let's do that. Right. Gem Bourbon, bundle install. Now let's open up our application CSS file. Sorry, application.css. Let's rename it to application.css. Now we can't use all this, so let's get rid of it. And now we just import Bourbon, but we also want to import our pages CSS file. Which was generated or created for us when we generated the pages controller. Okay, now that's pretty much it. And let's see the documentation, find out what we've got here. some transforms here. This might be a good one. Borderradius. Okay, so first things first, let's just make sure we have that. Okay, let's create a div here. Let's call it menu. And that menu will just have a list of items. Whiskey. Yeah. Sake and let's do wine. Now in our pages, CSS file, let's create class menu and let's do a background color. And we'll just do, let's try that. Okay, we've got an error. We need to restart our Rails server. Let's try again. Great. Let's change the width for now. Okay, so let's see how we can use this border radius. All we need to do is pretty much include this here. So let's try that. Just put a space there. Refresh. And see how it's got that right there. And if we inspect the actual element, let's find out what's going on here. Okay, so as you can see here in our menu class, it's added the border radiuses for us, and we didn't have to type that in, which is great. Now I suggest you take a look at the Bourbon website. There's a lot more things you can do with it. That's just a quick and easy sample. But let's take a look at Neat and get that up and running on our Rails app. So this is a semantic grid framework built with Sass. Now let's take a look at the installation instruction. Okay, here we are on the Neat GitHub page. And all we have to do is include the gem, Neat, bundle install, and import Neat. Simple. Let's take a look. Neat. We have our application.css file, SCSS file. Let's add it here. So we start a server. Okay. I'm just going to close Bourbon down. Now let's take a look at the example they've got here for us. So we've got a section with a header and another section. And within the CSS file, they've got section, which includes an outer layer, header, and a section with the header span column 3 and the section span column 9. So it's using a grid framework made out of 12 columns. So let's take a look at what we can do here. Let's try and copy what they've done. Let's go here. Section. Let's close that. And then let's say they've got a header. Put here. Another section. What I'll do is change this to menu. Let's become section now. Okay, so all we have to do is something like this. So we want to include the outer container. So include outer container. So before we do anything, let's take a look at what the page looks like. Refresh that. Let's see, it's similar. Let's include the outer layer. Let's refresh. There we go. Now we've got we have to include the columns to our header and our section here. So let's do that. Put header and we're going to include let's say 6 columns. We'll make it even. Then we've got a menu here, section menu. So it works on classes too, not just these block elements. So let's try this menu. Well, actually, we already have menu here. So what we can do is this. Let's get rid of this width. So what we want to do is include span column 6. Let's take a look. Oops. I spelled that. Span dash columns 6. And there we go. Quite nice. Let's retake a look and inspect the elements. So we've got that section there, the header, as you can see, and the menu section it's taking up. Close to 50-50, as you can see here. Okay, great. Now let's take a look at bidders. Let's close neat. Now bidders gives us scaffold styles, variables, and structure for our project. And all we have to do, let's look at the instruction. This is it. Okay, so we need to install the gem, and within our Rails style sheets folder, we just need to run bitters install. And it should add an actual folder there for us, which we can import after Bourbon. So let's go ahead. Gem install bitters. Now let's go to app, assets, style sheets, bitters install. So you can see that's done. So if we go into that directory, there we go. Now open up our application.css file. Import it, space. Okay. Let's refresh. Okay, so we've got a syntax error here. That looks like that base font family doesn't exist. That font stack system variable there doesn't actually exist. So here what we'll do is just put it in manually. Vertica. Let's refresh that. There we go. And let's take a look at the examples they've got here. Now what we can do is just copy this. So we just need, just take everything in the wrapper. So in our index page, let's just go to a new section. Class it's refills. Paste that here. That's actually quite a big example. We won't need the wrapper. Let's get rid of the wrapper. That's all good. Okay, let's refresh our page. There we go. It's got some nice styling here. Great. Okay, so what else is next? Let's take a look at refills. Actually, that was bitters. I made a mistake there. Let's just fix that again. Now, refills gives us components and patterns. Let's take a look at an example. As you can see, we've got tab menus here. Let's add that. It even has the JavaScript or CoffeeScript we can copy. Actually, let's take a look at this navigation. Let's see if we can add that. The HTML, let's copy that. Just so it's clear, what we're going to do is, let's go to our application layout file. And we're going to render a partial, which will be in shared, and we'll call it navigation, or nav. Let's create partial. So firstly, we need to create a folder. View in apps, views, shared, and let's create a file in app view shared underscore nav represent a partial. Let's copy that. Now let's refresh our page to see what it looks like. See it's on the left hand side. Now let's copy the SCSS. Now we'll just put it in our pages for now. Just put it down here. Okay, let's refresh, see what happens. There we go, it's added at the top there. Fantastic. And let's add the CoffeeScript. Grab our pages copy file. Just get rid of this. Paste. Saved. Now let's take a look at some components. Some button groups, which is quite nice. Let's take a look at adding that. Let's copy the HTML file. We'll add it to our pages index. And let's add it. Let's add it down here. Create a new section. Okay, let's refresh. As you can see, it's right here. Let's copy the CSS file. Just put it at the bottom. There you go. Nice and easy. And that's refills. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Just want to give big thanks to Thoughtbot and all the contributors to the Bourbon Neat Betas and Refills project. Take a look at the documentation, maybe use it for your next project. Until next time.